If you are looking to spend less, save more, or pay down some debt in the second half of 2024 and you haven't yet created a budget or cultivated a little bit of an overview of your monthly spending, then take this as the sign that it is now time to do so. Hey there friends, it's Carly. Welcome back to my channel, or hello if you're new here, and welcome to another Coffee and Conversations video, where today I'm going to be doing a mid-year budget slash finances reset. I'm sort of tallying my expenditures for the first half of the year and setting some goals for savings in the second half of the year, and sort of just getting myself organized in terms of my finances. So if that is something you're keen to see and sort of hear some of the tips and strategies that I'm putting in place to be a little bit more financially mindful and consumer conscious, then grab yourself a cuppa and let's get into the video. Alrighty, so the first thing that I did, I sort of started off in the first couple of months of the year. You might have seen if you watch my monthly reset routine videos, is I started tracking some different categories of my spending each month. And I was doing it manually, going on to my net bank, and I was mostly tracking what I was spending for groceries and just regular spending, like buying things such as clothing or things for Hunter or whatnot. And I was also tallying some of my monthly bills as well. So getting a handle on like what your monthly expenditure is like a really good first place to start, and to see what are some of the things that are going to come out every month, and where does your spending fluctuate, what's necessary and unnecessary spending. But what I realized when I really wanted to get super organized for the middle of the year, and this was one of my June goals, was that if I go into my net bank and I click on my everyday sort of, expenses account, I can actually find categories of my spending for each month. And if I click on the month up the top, it will bring up the different categories and how much I've spent on each of those categories that month, and it will have them in highest to lowest order. So the category I've spent the most on will be the top of the screen. And so the categories that I have on my NetBank app, I decided to translate those over and make an Excel spreadsheet. So whether you need to do this manually, you don't have like that category option on your online banking, or you do have that category option, I would definitely suggest, first things first, whether it's getting on Excel or some other sort of program, make yourself a bit of a spreadsheet and a tally with the categories and the months of the year. You might only do like 1 month at a time, or you might want like 6 months, quarterly, or like a full year. I decided that I'm going to do a full year, and I've already put in all of the data from the first 6 months. So some of the categories that I put down for my expenses were groceries, transport, eating out, utilities, home, business, health, entertainment, shopping, and donations. Oftentimes my entertainment is eating out, so that is where most of my entertainment funds will come from. But what I did was I started off in January, looked at my January expenditures and started popping those into the Excel spreadsheet. Now what I actually did was I went on Microsoft 365, I looked up Excel that way, and I got myself a template. there are a heap of people sort of like in the online space coming up with like budget trackers, like Excel budget trackers that you can buy and download. And if you like have zero idea about technology and want to pay money for something like that that's like really aesthetic and cool, go for it. But I know nothing about Excel myself, and I literally just found a template. I typed in annual budget. They have like a heap of different options, like of weekly budgets, annual budgets, monthly budgets, and I just selected the one that was going to be the best for me. So chances are you can probably find that yourself free online, either via Excel or any other program that sort of works for you. So I downloaded this budget spreadsheet for free, and I started going on my NetBank and plugging the data from that into the spreadsheet. And what I did was I had an income section where I totaled the money that I saved each month. So I have been putting monthly money into our family savings, and then I've also been putting extra money each month on the loan because I want to try and pay that off as quick as possible, but also to decrease our monthly interest as much as possible as well, because the more that I'm paying the bank, you know, the less that is in my pocket essentially. So I totaled my savings, I totaled my monthly expenses, and then once I'd put all the data in, the next thing that I did was I started color coding each of the category expenses, and I colored some green where I felt like for that month I was happy with how much I'd spent on that category. I felt like, you know, it was one of the lower sort of averages for the first 6 months, and that's something that I'd like to aspire to for the second half of the year. And then red for those months and categories where I felt like the opposite was true. Now, once you've sort of got your little system in place, you've plugged in all the data, the next thing to do is go and start evaluating things, whether, you know, some of those expenses were necessary or some of them were frivolous, and what we can do from here on out. So I noted that my home, groceries and shopping categories had the most red throughout the first 6 months of the year. Now, I knew that my home was going to. I have just moved into this new home in the last couple of months of last year, and we were lay-buying and paying off furniture to basically furnish the entire home. We did come with some furniture, but we needed to furnish a number of different rooms, and there were just a few items that we were going to upgrade and switch out. So that was just going to be a necessary expense. Plus we needed to put blinds, block out blinds in all of the rooms, and that was quite expensive as well. So even though I have done red for 3 months worth of home expenses, that was February, May and June, they were necessary expenses, and now I've got the house looking exactly the way I want it to. It's, you know, beautiful, aesthetic, it's homely, it's something that I've been Pinterest boarding for years, so I'm really happy with how it turned out, and I don't foresee that the home category should have any large expenses for the second half of the year. So it was a worthwhile expense for the first half of the year, and theoretically I should be able to drop down my spending in that category significantly in the next 6 months. So that is great. But 2 categories where that's not necessarily the case, shopping and groceries, I really do feel like I need to get under control. So for both shopping and groceries, I had 3 months where I have read those. March was not a great month for me, like in anything. I have the most amount of red in the month of March, 4 different categories of redded, actually, and February as well has been red. Some months, so January, February and May, I don't have groceries in red. January was great for groceries. I spent $772 on groceries that month, whereas in June, I spent over $1,100 in groceries that month. That's like almost $400 a month difference in groceries. That's $50 extra a week. And I'm just like thinking, I've looked at my individual grocery shops for the month of June, and I, for the life of me, cannot figure out why my monthly total is so high. Whether there was an extra week in June than there was in January, I don't know. But that's definitely an area that if I have the capacity to spend $700 or $800 a month in groceries, there was even like 2 months there where it was $900. If I have the capacity to spend that much a month, then it really should not be necessary for me to be spending $1,000 or more. So that's definitely an area where I need to be more strategic about planning my dinners the week before, having my shopping list, adhering to the list, and going in there not succumbing to the Aldi middle aisle purchases, and seeing if there are more things that I have been getting at Woolworths that I can be getting at Aldi. I was going to Woolies to buy nappies when they were on sale because the Huggies ones are like really good quality, but I've just decided, you know, Hunter's just going to do his business in them and they're going to go in the bin, so I'm going to buy the cheaper Aldi ones. So there's some things straight away I can do that will hopefully help to decrease the grocery expenses in the second half of the year. Now, shopping, I also have 3 months where I have put those in red, and that was February, March, and May. And in those months, I'm spending $500, $600, $700 in shopping. And that was things like 1 month I bought some clothes for me for my mum glow up, wardrobe upgrade. I've gone to Best and Less and I bought 2 like lots of $200 shops for Hunter, stocking up his wardrobe for winter and spring. I bought like some things from Kmart for around the house, just sort of finalizing kitchen bits, whether it's, you know, our knife block or some extra plates and bowls. And while I think some of those purchases were necessary and unavoidable, like my child does need to be clothed and we were not having enough plates to eat upon, definitely if I look at them closer, there was probably a lot that wasn't. And I'm 100% the type of person that gets buyer's remorse. That's why I definitely think for me, buying things online is a lot better than buying in store, because in store I'm more likely to succumb to impulse shopping and just see something I like and buy it in the moment, and then like I mean, I can go back with my receipt and change my mind, but it's a lot harder to do as opposed to having something in the basket, leaving it there, thinking about it. I guarantee like 90% of the time, if I have a tab open and I have things in my basket, the next day or a couple of days later or a week later when I decide to go back and have a look at it, because I'm like spending some time percolating on it, I've realized that I really don't need it and I don't want to spend that money, and I ditch it out of the basket. So I really need to stick to that, because that's a much better way for me to resist impulse buying. Because I had like, June was a great month. I only spent $127 on shopping items. And for the life of me, I don't even know what that is. I mean, I could go into my net bank and strategically look at all the transactions, and maybe that would be a good idea. But if I'm only spending $120 a month, there is literally no reason for me to, in May, spend $720. Like, that is excessive amounts of money, I think anyway. So there are 3 categories that I feel like I have the potential straight away to significantly reduce. I mean, transport is hard, like, because I drive around, I need to pay for petrol. January was a big month for transport because I needed to buy 4 new tires for my car. When there's rego, when there's insurance, when there's services, like, you've got to get those things done. They're necessary. Same with utilities. Like, every 3 months my utility bill is going to be bigger because I pay my electricity every month, but every 3 months we've got a water bill coming in as well. Definitely think like being more mindful of my electricity use and water consumption can hopefully try and decrease those bills slightly. But I mean, I'm not going to like be able to drastically reduce that category on a month by month basis. Business was mostly my Teachers Federation membership, but I don't want to go back into the teaching field. I'd really like to continue to pursue a career online and making my YouTube channel profitable. And yeah, I was paying $79 a month in Teachers Federation membership fees, even like this year when I'm not actually working. So I have cancelled that. So that's going to save me a couple $100 in the second half of the year straight away. And then the last category is eating out. Now, if you watched one of my monthly reset routine videos, I did set my one of my goals as decreasing my out-of-home coffees per week and limiting my Macca's drive-through coffees, and I've been really successful at doing that. I have been like meeting up with friends probably 3 times a week, mother's group, library, and then maybe one other occasion. So I've maybe been getting like 2 or 3 coffees out a week, but that is a significant reduction from 5 coffees, and we're not really like going out for dinner or getting takeaway. We've been a lot more strategic about planning our meals, as I said. So the eating out category has significantly decreased. Like I had February and March where I was spending over $200 in eating out a month, and then we went down to 140, then 130, and then for June it was 98. So hopefully we can either maintain like that 98 or even less for the second half of the year, and I can continue to indulge in more free activities like going to the library, going for a walk, going and visiting family, and just having a cuppa at their house, which I love to do anyway. But I feel like this has been really helpful for me to see in reality how much I'm spending a month, and some of those categories have shocked me, and I feel like whenever I'm contemplating buying something, I can come back, I can look at this, I've printed it out, I'm putting it up on my wall in this room here so that I can, you know, continue to be reminded of it and reminded of my financial goals, which, you know, for the second half of the year is really to try and pay off as much of the mortgage as I'm financially able to, and really just continue to save for the landscaping outside. They're kind of the 2 main things that I'm working towards. I really just want to put myself in, well, our family essentially, in a position where I don't have to return to my career as a teacher, and that there are more options for me in terms of work. And in this sort of cost of living crisis, where there are a lot of things out of your control in terms of expenses, being more strategic and aware of what you are spending and how you can cut back without like reducing the joy of life is super important. And then the last thing that I did to kind of financially reset for the second half of the year is I went on Canva and I made myself a pretty little table, and I wrote down all the months of the year, went back through my net bank, and I started looking at what are the big expenses or big bills that I have coming each month. When is my car rego due? When's the home insurance due? When's the rates due? So I have like a vision of that, and I know which months I need to strategically save up for and be aware of. Like I can look over it now and I can determine that August is going to be a big month for us because we've got rates, which is quite expensive, and I've also got my Epidemic Sound subscription, which is where I get all of my music for YouTube from. So as we're in July now, I need to be setting aside as much as I can to make sure I can cover those expenses for next month. And then also in September, that's a big month too, because we've got home insurance, we've got our water bill, and I've got my roadside assistance membership for NRMA. And then December is our next big one for this year, which is my car insurance, my pink slip, my service, my water bill. Yeah, there's a few different things coming up. So like, I know the second half of the year is going to be pretty bill heavy and like large yearly bills as well. So being aware of that, because you kind of, you know that they exist, but you sort of forget about them until you get the email or until you get the letter, and you don't want these things to sneak up on you and surprise you, and you're like sort of scrambling to make sure that you have the money set aside, or you know, had saved, but all of a sudden that savings now needs to go towards the bill that you forgot was coming. So I think for me, this is going to be really good to be able to be planning and be more strategic and know when a big month is going to come up. So they're just some of the small sort of strategies that I put in place to get a handle on my finances, save up, pay down debt, and be more consumer conscious for the second half of the year. If you have any additional strategies or goals that you want to put in place for the end of 2024, make sure you list those in the comments down below. And if you want more kind of savings tips, I do have my 2024 budget spend less, save more video up on this channel as well, which you can go and check out. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe down below. I upload new ones every single week. With that being said, I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your week, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye guys.